The Xbox controller has traditionally been seen as the best controller in gaming. Indeed, it is the gamer's controller of choice since the 360. I just think they nailed form factors, particularly for first-person shooters. I think it's been the premier controller. Then with the Elite controller, they kind of solidified that. And over the years, I don't think that there's been a question. The Xbox controller is the best controller in gaming. Now, people do have their preferences and will say, well, I don't like it. I prefer the Nintendo Switch controller. But when you look at the Nintendo Pro controller, what makes it so great is it's just like the Xbox controller, only with a 40-hour battery life, which is amazing. PlayStation, though, has made some changes to their PS5 controller. And so the question remains, or it begs the question, rather, is the Xbox controller still the best controller in gaming? It might not be. Let's discuss that today. Let's also talk about what Phil Spencer said about that, which really brings up this question. Is it the best controller in gaming? Is Xbox going to make some adjustments to add some features that PlayStation brought? We'll discuss that. Before we do, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. This is the XoneBros. We're dropping videos all the time, especially if you're an Xbox fan. This is the place for you. We have an Xbox podcast, the best Xbox podcast on the planet, that drops every single week. And we've got daily or close to daily videos all about things Xbox right here on the channel. Let's jump into it. This is a news story over at purexbox.com. Phil Spencer praises the PS5 DualSense, says there's more work to do with the Xbox controller. Quote, I think Sony's done a nice job. Well done. Now, this is a conversation that took place over on the Kind of Funny Games cast where Phil Spencer was there, and he took a moment to praise Sony on the DualSense controller. He added that, quote, there's probably some work to do, some work that we'll do on the Xbox controller, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen anytime soon. Here's what he said, quote, we're definitely thinking about different kinds of devices that can bring more games to more places. There's probably some work that we'll do on the controller. I think Sony's done a nice job with their controller, and we're kind of looking at some sort of that, and I think there are some things that we should go do. But we're probably not in the more bespoke accessories place right now. We just look at what happens on Windows and other places and see if there's a unique opportunity for us. Right now, I don't think there's anything that's obvious to me, which is really interesting. Xbox controllers already have something known as impulse triggers, which means each trigger has an individual motor inside to simulate vibrations. Racing games are a great example of this, using the triggers to provide feedback on the track. Unfortunately, they're not something that are used as much as we'd like. The DualSense controller does have the innovation that it has that tension, like when you're pulling a trigger on a gun, you can feel the tensions, you can feel the vibration and rumble. And that's something that a lot of people really like. Indeed, lifelong Xbox fans are saying, I just love that controller. I love that feature of the controller. It is a feature that I think that Xbox should bring. The question is, do you want it on every game? And if you're a player and a hardcore player, let's say competitive, does that work in a competitive arena? I'm not sure that it does. It might actually hinder it. While it does provide this added sensibility or sensation, added sense that you can feel while you're playing the game, which perhaps provides some further immersion to the game. On a competitive aspect, it might actually hinder you. So what I would like to see is Microsoft implement that feature on the DualSense controller where you can really feel the tension, like when pulling a trigger, for instance, but give you the ability to turn it off. And I'm sure that exists in settings, actually, on any game anyways, so maybe I'm just speaking out of my butt here. Never mind. Ignore everything I just said. I do think it's a cool thing. I've heard lots of people. I've not had a chance to use it myself, but I do know friends of mine who are big Xbox guys that absolutely love the PlayStation 5 triggers, that they think that that's it. They like the form factor of the Xbox, but they really like those triggers and the experience that those triggers give you on the DualSense controller over on the PS5. Interesting question. Does it remain king? I do think that the Xbox controller remains king because of that form factor. I think having the joysticks not at the same place, I think having them down by your pause button isn't ideal. Having them, what is the word I'm looking for, where they're not symmetrical, they're not lined up, having them offset, that's the word. Having the joysticks offset on the controller is ideal. I think it makes it better. Granted, I might just be used to that, but I do think for that reason alone, it will probably remain the premier controller. The PlayStation controller has done some really good things. I think those triggers are awesome, nice. Everybody that I speak to really likes them. I'd like to see those on the Xbox controller. Absolutely. I want to know what you guys think. Do you think the Xbox controller remains the best? Let me know in the comments below. Again, if you haven't hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. Interesting stuff coming out of Phil Spencer. He's doing the rounds. We're going to get a lot more of these types of stories coming up as he continues to do the rounds on these podcasts. Have a great rest of your day, everybody.